What's going on, everybody? Wilson here, your spiritual hype man. I hope you're having a great day. And if you're not, just remember it's the thoughts in our head, and we got to become the Jedi Mind Master and fucking change what we're thinking about. Now, sometimes it's easier said than done, but just remember, I think it's important now. Like, yeah, you can change it. Like, if you've identified, change it right away. Cool. I think let's go another step. Change it, identify, ask why, reflect on it, put it in your head, write it down, journal it, throw it in the chat GPT, whatever it is, but get it down somewhere and start analyzing, maybe reflecting why you're not feeling good. What were the decisions you made? What was the influence? What was the emotion? And what ultimately led you to that decision? Yeah. And then, if it's still part of something that you're feeling, you have one or two options. You stay in it until you don't need to be in it anymore and make that a positive action, right? So like let it hurt enough until it makes you and moves you forward, but don't let it hurt enough to bring you backwards or bring you opposite of forward, backwards. And then, comma and semicolon, jump in the ice bath, do some push-ups, jump on the bike, go for a walk, listen to some music, scream, yell, punch a punching bag, whatever you need to do. But, you can always biohack to feel better. I hope you're having a good day, like I said. If not, just those are the things that you can do. Today, I want to talk about a couple of things that we got going on. Let me just... Okay. All right, so I wanna share a story. This was back when I was in college, and I would say it was the not so happy Halloween party, or Halloween party gone wrong. Okay, so first of all, this was back in college. Okay, I just want to say that back in college. Two, Halloween party. So Halloween party in college. Obviously, there's tons of drinking, tons of just doing that. What you would think is happening. And so at the moment, at that time, I had a girlfriend, and we ended up going to the party, the fraternity party, and it was another fraternity's party. And at the time, obviously, I would get drunk, and then I also had I had two things that probably a lot more than two things not wrong with me, but definitely influencing some of the decisions that probably were not the best. And so at this party, something happened where all right, here's the thing. I was very jealous, okay, and still tend to be somewhat on I don't want to say jealous side, but just a very more protective, I would say, than jealous, because I don't get too jealous anymore. You see how I'm trying to cover my footprints. There's definitely still moments, right, where I'm protective of my other half, right? I'm protective in terms of like disrespectful lines, right? For sure. Back way when I was jealous, right? So I was like overly protective to a point of, being upset at the individual, being upset at the person that, the guy, and being upset at her, but mostly being upset at her versus the guy sometimes, right? Just that whole classical bullshit of, fill in the blank. Like it's a classical pattern within relationships with certain individuals that are in that, that become that or do that or decide to act like that. And again, you can unpack that all the way probably to childhood or some shit. But that's who I was, and and that's what it was. Like I'm not gonna I'm not gonna lie, it was terrible. So what happened at the party was something, and here's the other thing that I'm going to say. Like, I'm also very high emotional intelligence. If we talked about this before, like in terms of I can feel and understand and see little nuances that most people don't take into consideration. If I didn't, if I didn't have I don't know if I maybe record, I don't know, I really don't. But like, if I didn't do this, I probably would have gone into the FBI maybe or something, a private investigation or something like that. Um, so I'm not crazy, right? Like I'm not like it's not like I don't see things, or I say that I see things that aren't there. It's just it's hard to sometimes bring full evidence until like things happen, right? That I can't, I go by intuition. It's like, well, how do you know? It's like, well, my intuition told me. Were you right? Yeah, but in the moment, who's gonna listen to the spiritual hype man and talk about intuition? Um, but so that I had that going as well, right? So I had like, and I was also the cheater. I was also the cheater. I was also the person that would go outside of the relationship boundaries or respectful line, and then just totally have disregard for the other person. And so it was a crazy combination at the time: drugs, alcohol, still rage from things from growing up in the past, influences back then. Um, being the cheater, not being accepted or liked earlier on, and then finally liked and finally looked at like wow, and then took advantage of that, um, and then just jealous slash, uh, you know, how do you say it? Emotional and mentally, um, what's the word? I don't want to say abusive. At times I would say, but controlling. Yeah, that more controlling than abusive. It was abusive at times, but more controlling, right? So that was a powerful combination as far as, and not powerful in a good way, but like just like a crazy storm of uh, characteristics of an individual, at a young individual with less emotional resonance, less or maybe high emotional, but maybe not enough emotional intelligence. Um, so yeah, so I painted the picture, and so on Halloween we went to another fraternity party, and I there was just like this one kid or something like that, and that's it. Like I just lost my cool, and I went kind of nuts. I went kind of nuts. Now I don't know a lot of I know some of the story, right? It went kind of nuts. Yelled, screamed, grabbed, to the point where other fraternity guys came over and they were trying to like get me to calm down. And at that time, it was just more like, nah, you can't tell me to calm down at all. Like you can't tell me nothing. Um, and so to an extent, like I saw it firsthand too. Like, and I've seen it firsthand where, um, you know, things get unsaid or unseen, or they get seen but they don't get said, and for some reason at that level, like no one really intervened, or um, yeah, or called cops or did anything of that nature, because obviously people were doing other things. So it's like you're sort of in this level of whatever, and I've seen it firsthand, and I'm sure you've seen it, or if you haven't seen it, like it's part of the whole population thing where it's like if people are afraid to say anything, then they just sort of watch, and then unless it's like really bad, I guess. And but what is really bad, and I think at that time, it could have been considered really bad, because if I were in this situation and I saw someone do it, like I genuinely would step up as well. But it was me that in that situation doing those things. So yeah, it's been a fucking ride, guys. And then to even be able to talk about it, I think it's important because there's a couple of things that like um I would want to do. Like there's a couple things that I hope this hits not only to the people that either are the abusers, have been abused, like both ends, right? Because like the person that abuses and the person that gets abused, like they both deal with certain things, and I feel like everyone in that situation can benefit from getting better, And whether it is staying with each other or not staying with each other, like whatever, like those are things that like you can figure out in the interim. But like I think initially it's like you got to figure out, one, obviously make sure like safety, and you're not hurting anybody, or the intention is never to like negatively impact anybody to a point of no return, because that's just, there's something wrong there, right? um but things can get heated, and they got heated, in those moments. And in most of my relationships, there have been lots of high emotional things, which again, I'm part responsible for. So, and this is what I'm working on. Like, this is it's been years of working on it. And so, just going back to my point, is I feel like, I hope things like this, where I open up and actually talk about real life shit like this, it hits somebody that may need to hear it, or may, in either situation, because I've seen it. I've been on both sides, and then I know that you can change, and I know that it's a great thing when you do, and it feels great. But there was a lots of loss on my side. Like, I lost lots of people in my life because of that, and my lack of changing, right? My lack of changing uh, myself as the person, as the character, as the traits, as the influence, as the emotion, as the decision. So, it's possible for sure, but you also have to just be very logical at some point. And it's hard if you don't have the ability or the capacity at the moment, because, even for me, like, there were things that I knew, I'm like, yeah, like later on, I felt bad. Like the following day, there was remorse. But in the moments of seeing red, and I've talked about this even on the soccer field, and when you get competitive or something like that, there's moments where you just lose your cool, and no one can talk sense into you until you calm the fuck down, because your body enters this fight or flight, right, sort of thing. So, I hope, and I'm gonna talk more about all, more of this stuff, in terms of just, like, again, whether it's domestic violence or just violence in general, as far as, putting your hands on someone else or doing something else. There's sport for that, and other than that, there's, if you need to protect yourself, life or death sort of thing. But outside of that, I feel like, you know it shouldn't even be a thing, to even consider. And so, um I feel for anyone, whether, you are the abused or the abuser. I think there are things that, need to be, like, you need to be figured out. And I guess right now, reflecting, I would say the first thing is, you know I think the first thing is, like, I don't know. I'm trying to think. I'm actually just trying to reflect on all the previous relationships and my current, Patty, obviously. Um, I think it depends on several factors. It also depends on the maturity level, like, in your brain, like your ability, like your brain growth, right, or your development of, like, your brain and where you are right now. Because if you can be highly intelligent and still be, 28, 22-year old or something, and then understand these concepts, and then understand certain things that comes from influence. Or, if you didn't have it and you lacked it, it definitely comes from, like, high awareness intelligence. And if you don't have it, then you're gonna have to go through certain things, certain situations, certain outcomes, um, that you're just gonna have to go through, and you're gonna have to live with, and you're gonna have to feel. I think at the end of the day, it's like you feel it, and you're like, well, this is definitely not a good feeling. And then how many more times are you gonna do that, right? How many more times are you gonna wake up feeling like, the asshole, or the person that did X, Y, and Z? Or how many times are you gonna do it before you get in trouble, right? Or at the end of the day, it'll lead to certain situations that you're gonna feel pain. You're not gonna feel good about it. And so, I feel like you can get there if you've gotten there, and you're still, and you're seeking, like, how do I change? Then you found an opportunity to do it. And I think for me, it was not wanting to feel that way, and then ultimately just reinforcing the fact that if you love the person that you say you're with, then why would you treat them that way? And I think, most recently I sort of said that to myself. I was like, look, great job, Wilson. You're doing a good job on that end. But what about for yourself too, right? As the person, it's like, I've been both, and in both, and in two stories, like you can look at me and root for me, and you can look at me and also, curse at me and be like, you're this guy, I can't believe him. Like, wow, how dare you do something like that to another individual? And it's true, and both sides of that is true. And so, I think for both people, or wherever you are in that situation, or if you are in a situation like that, I think the most important is safety. Make sure you're safe. The second is, if you're going to do it or continue to be in a relationship like that, you both need to figure out if the relationship is worth changing certain things and what it means, like how to get to that change. And I think the only way to get to that change is you have to have enough like intelligence to know what you need to change and then reinforce it with a positive decision. And now what you need to change, you'll know, but like how you get there, I think is different for everybody. Some people may do well in counseling, like if they're talking to like a relationship counselor. Some people may not do well in that. Some people may do well if, you go and do a 30-day retreat with each other. Some people may do better if they go to Alcoholics Anonymous or, or whatever. Like you have to figure out what the best course of action is for you based on the situation. Now, I will tell you this, that if alcohol or drugs or any type of that stimulant abuse is there, that should be the first thing you cut out. Like that needs to just not be part of the equation, because you can't be like, you just can't like you can't be in a more mature, intellectual aware state if you're under, if you're over abusing the influence, right? Like you can definitely get into a good flow state here and there, but if you're over abusing it and you're abusing that in general, and then thinking that you're going to go about life just sort of making the right decisions under the influence, it's just not reality. Like it's not going to happen. You can definitely, again, use things for flow state and use things for certain states of, like even mushrooms, things like that, like different things to give yourself different perspective. But like if you're going to be on it constantly and you think you're going to make the right decisions, whether it's in a relationship or in certain situations, I think, again, that there's a level of maturity or level of acknowledgement or consciousness that you need to have in order to start making decisions like these types of decisions. So it takes time, it takes effort, it takes patience, but it can definitely be possible, because I'm right here. You're looking and listening at someone that honestly, either jail or beat up or something outside of what I'm doing right now. And I think I was blessed, and two, I was given the opportunity to do better, to feel what I want to feel. And I'm still working through that, as far as like just feeling happy and feeling good about the things that I'm doing. Obviously it comes from a shit ton of stuff. And so, and again, that was only, I like to say I'm 28 years old, because I am, and I'll be 28 for life. But that was probably, let's see, 15 years ago, something like that. Let's see, where are we at? Let's see, trying to do math here, but I also don't want to give everybody out my numbers here. Let's see. Yeah. So yeah, maybe about 15 years ago, 14 years ago, something like that. And that was it was years of that, like years of, it didn't really change too much senior year. Like, it was still very much the same. So yeah, it was nuts. So Halloween party that happened, and then we got driven back. I'm like, all right, we're the fuck out of here. Get in the fucking car. In the car, I'm yelling and fucking screaming. I'm not driving, obviously, but there's the girlfriend and then two other girls, her roommates, in the back, and then our driver. and I'm fucking screaming and yelling, and they're screaming and yelling, they're saying shit. And then next thing you know, I just said, I was like, you know what, then get the fuck out the car. And I threw everybody out the car, and then one of the other fraternity guys from the other fraternity ended up following us because they were just like, hey man, you guys, good on their part, right? Good on their part to ensure the safety. And I think that's the first and most important thing is ensure your safety and everybody around you. Um, and so I threw him out the fucking car. I was like, get the fuck out the car. And then they got picked up by the other fraternity guys. I told the driver to take me back to the apartment where I was staying, which was with my girlfriend and her two roommates. So I was staying there, and again, craziness, man. I was staying with her most of the time. I had my own apartment too, but I was pretty much crashing there all the time. And we had a puppy at that time. His name was Jack. And again, Halloween, my face is painted like the Crow. If you haven't seen the Crow, it's a good movie. The original with Brandon Lee. Um, and I decided to again, I was fucked up. I decided I couldn't get into the apartment normally through the door, but I'm sometimes we left the deck the deck door open, right? So I was like, well, I'm just gonna go fucking climb up these 3 floors, and so I ended up climbing up 3-floor decks, these decks, the outside patios in apartments, and then swinging myself into the second deck, right, the second floor. So I went all the way up to the 3rd floor, and then I swung myself into the 2nd-floor deck. And then as soon as I got there, then I saw police cops, police cars, 5 of them, come in from the apartment, from the apartment complex, in the the driveway complex. And so they fucking screeched in, 5 of them, and then I'm up there on the deck, and all I hear is get down or we'll shoot. And they had drawn their guns. They drew their shotguns at me. And so as soon as I heard that, I was quickly sobered up, quickly jumped, got to the ground, put my feet behind, I put my hands behind my head, and now the funny part, it's at the moment I was I can't believe this is happening, but I would look through the sliding door, and I see my puppy Jack just kind of looking at me, and I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. And in the moment, honestly, I didn't know. I was for some reason, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what was gonna happen. Honestly, I just knew I couldn't move. I didn't want to get shot. They came. They put handcuffs on me. They brought me outside. I explained to them what it was, and again, sort of, I always had the ability to just speak in a way that made sense. To most people, and then they asked if they wanted to press charges on me, and luckily they said no. My girlfriend at the time, she said no, but they had to go and put in a police report or something, but never press charges. And then I got to go home. They let me out of the cuffs, and so again, just another situation where not only did I put other people's lives at risk, or their safety. I wouldn't say lives, more of their safety, but definitely put my own life at risk, and everybody's safety. And so, imagine waking up the following day and trying to apologize for those things. Just imagine that. Those are the situations I've been in, and those are the situations and those feelings that, again, I'm sharing with anyone that is either on either side. Those are the feelings that you start asking yourself: how much longer or how much more am I going to endure? Am I going to put myself through and other people through, and continue doing these things and not bring in people the positive feeling. Positively impact the people around you. And I'm telling you, I've lost quite a lot of relationships through that, a lot of friends, because of it. And even just, I don't know if you've heard most recently, the one, with even my high school buddy, John, it was another situation like that, similar, where for the longest time, we stopped talking because of it. So, Um, and I'm sure there's people out there now, like if I were to go and apologize, they still would not want nothing to do with me, which is crazy if you think about it, because you know me as a spiritual hype man, and I know myself as who I am now. Still working on things, obviously, especially here with Patty and my other half that we've been together for quite some time. Um, but same thing, like the more I discuss, the more I share with you, the more it helps me, and I hope it helps you, and helps anybody that's in a certain situation, or if you know somebody that's in it and they just need to hear about it, or they need to hear some perspective. Um, it's it's a tough thing to break. It's and I don't want to say it's almost like addiction, um, but it definitely is. It definitely is a tough behavioral trait to break if you're not strong enough to be aware enough. Really, it's not even strong enough. It's just being aware enough, and then being able to filter enough emotional impact to actually go make these changes. But the easy way, I'm telling you, the first thing, the easiest way to do is, like, if it's alcohol and drugs and part of that is part of that, then you should just cut that out right away. Like, you just need to cut that out right away. Go sober for as long as you can. And then really start reflecting on, do I want to keep feeling this way? Do I want to keep doing the same thing over and over? And do I want to keep hurting the people that I say I love? Just ask yourself that question. Do you love this person? Yeah. Then why are you treating them that way? And do the same thing. Ask yourself the same question for yourself. All right. I think that's it for this one. Thanks for listening. It was a crazy Halloween. Oh, yeah. And apparently there was like a robbery in that hotel complex. And so they got called in, and they were just taking full action no matter what, in case it was the same person, and I don't know who called, whether it was neighbors or the girlfriend or the girlfriend's roommates at the time. But yeah, crazy. So I appreciate you guys for listening. I appreciate you guys for everything that you do. Really helps. Really helps me for sure. So thank you again. This is full gratitude towards you. Thank you to all the listeners. My only ask are very simple. If you're listening, please follow. Hit that follow button on the platform that you're listening, whether it's Apple, Spotify, any other players, and then rate the podcast. The higher the ratings, the better, obviously. So I appreciate you guys. Looking forward to sharing the new things that we got coming out for you. Oh, and if you want to sponsor, just buy yourself a shirt or a hoodie. Again, thanks to the John Wilberth who sponsored us the last episode. He was cool. I'm going to keep shouting you out because it was awesome to see that someone decided to buy a hoodie and do that. So thank you again. Keep crushing it, guys. And don't forget, nothing changes until you do. Peace.